Thank you. Hi. So before I start, um, do you want the Deadpool version or do you want the Captain America version of this? Captain America. Oh no! Don't do this to me. All right, Deadpool. All right. So whenever I say a bad word, just say language, and then we'll move on. Okay. So why am I here? Why am I talking? It's because I'm tonight's entertainment, and I am going to talk to you about. Well, oops, sorry, making a difference, presenting data the right way, which is really weird because I was promised to be tonight's entertainment, and it's this really boring title. Anyway, my name is Ceuppens. I come from Belgium. I visit a lot of measure camps, and I noticed a lot of gripes, and I'm going to be talking about that because that's really what good entertainment does. Okay, so I came across this. This is in here since yesterday. Oh, sorry for the camera, folks. So this is in here since yesterday. A 2% increase in customer retention has the same effect on profits as cutting costs by 10%, which sounds really great until you click on the link, and then it's really iffy math. But it does make, but it did make a good point, which means we do not focus on customer retention. We do not focus on making sure our stakeholders are happy, and we then complain about the fact that they take stupid decisions that we warned them about. And we can avoid all of that by focusing a little bit more on what our customers want or what our stakeholders want. So I want to start with two stories about how I got to be here today. And the first story is basically one of my first clients, like in 2008, 2007, was a bicycle shop in Belgium. And it was an online bicycle shop, and they sold the sum total of 3 bikes a week. And then they came to us, and we did a lot of SEO, we did a lot of Google ads, and all the stuff you did back then. And then we took them up from 3 bikes a week to over 30 or 35 bikes a week by the end of the contract. And so it's the last week of the contract, and our account manager and me were sitting on the table, and we're just going over the notes, like, this is what we're going to say, this is what we did, yada, yada, yada. And we go like, and then he'll probably just sign here, and we'll have some champagne. It's cold in the fridge anyway. And so he comes in, and we do our little talk, and we don't get a lot of reaction. And at the end, he says, like, I'm not happy. Really not happy because of the simple fact that I expected more. And you're telling me that, yes, you did create a 10-fold increase in sales, but who's to say, and I swear this is true, who's to say it's not because there were more fucking people on the internet during that year? Okay, so basically he wrote a Yelp review, and then he said like, oh, I'm gonna talk to my nephew. He's really great at doing this, and he's gonna be doing it for a couple of hundred, whereas I'm paying you a couple of thousand. Anyway, so that's story number one, which learned me the lesson that you really need to know what the expectation of your customer or your stakeholder is. Lesson number two came to me painstakingly with my previous performance agency. And we were having these meetings. They were doing performance-y stuff, so conversion rate optimization. They were doing Google Ads campaigns, Facebook campaigns, that sort of stuff. We were having these meetings that were 3 excruciating hours long. And at the end of those meetings, you could have asked me and the people in the meeting, like, how are our campaigns performing? And I would not be able to tell you a single thing about what the performance of those things were, because they were always going on like, and that was up 20%, and we had 1,217,000 views, and we had 8 signups for the fucking newsletter. Like, who fucking cares? Anyway, so it was, and I swear this is also true, the last meeting that I had before Corona, so before the lockdown, was with them, and I decided in that meeting, like, this is it. I've done 100 of these, I cannot take it anymore. Somebody needs to explain to people who work with data how to present data to people, and I will be your champion. See what I did there? So, little nod. Okay, so anyway, so this is the situation that I ended up being in right there. And so, yeah, I started researching that sort of stuff. And then I as most people do who write blogs and are content creators, I steal stuff from other people. But the thing is, like, I do like attribute to whom it came. Oh, Google took away the highlight. Anyway, so this is the most important line of this particular tweet. Facts and evidence alone do not sway people in power. And I cannot stress how important that lesson is. If you take away anything from today, and I'm going to be saying that a few more times today, it is facts and evidence alone do not sway people in power. Hands up if you're surprised by this fact. Somehow, oh no, okay, well, audience, that's up. Okay, so basically showing more data does not make your case more convincing. As a stakeholder, and I'm really in a situation, I want recommendations and the data is in support. So I had this discussion with the agency for new client I work with. And they were just like, the CPC is 37 cents. And so I basically gave them the presentation. They were really annoyed. No, it's not true. But the data is in support, so I don't want to hear every single detail. I just want to know what's important. Tell me what's important, and then tell me why it's important, why I should trust it. Okay, so an important thing here that people always say is, well, I'm like a data person, and I really want to see the numbers. And you would be right. You really do want to see the numbers, but you don't want to see the numbers on a screen in the talk that you're giving. You want to see the numbers the day before, the night before, when you get a presentation or when you get a data table where you get to see basically what you're talking about or what's going to come up so that you can create like notes. Like, oh, this is interesting. Can we talk about this? Or you can be much more informed and then let the people so that would be you. So then let the people just do their little talks and make explanations about why we need to do X, Y, or Z. Okay, so don't forget handouts. So I came up with this system basically because it's a talk and you need a system of 3 steps. And step 1 is, what's the problem here? Because most of the issues that I have, and it came up a few times, it came up with Fernando, it came up with Sam, I think, as well, is people don't know what the actual business problem is that we are tasking them with. So it's your job as an analyst to get to know that. So before you want to be understood, seek to understand. And so 3 questions that help you here, which I blatantly stole from The Coaching Habit, which is a great book on coaching. And the first one is, what is a challenge here for you? So what is a challenge here for you is just you have to understand what they need from you. It might be that your particular task is just a small piece of the puzzle, and you need to know what the other pieces are so that you know where you can, where you fit into and what you need to take into account. This was the issue with me in the beginning of my career. 2 is, what would you like to see? And this sounds really stupid because it sounds like we're pandering to our audience. Like, oh, well, we're only going to look at that. No, you want to know exactly what they want so that you can find out if that's the case. Problem, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it isn't, now we get to go to number 3, which is like a psychological masterpiece, which is what circumstances would change your mind? Because if we ask this question, they will tell us, like, if I see this or that, there's X, Y, or Z, I'm probably prone to change my mind. And because they told us, they're now more prone to change their minds as well when the time comes. This is basic, like, influence, Robert Cialdini principle things. Okay. Step 2, you have to do the hard work for the audience. I cannot see another slide with 5 or 6 metrics and a few colors. It's too much. I just saw too much of them. So doing the hard work for your audience, that means showing, not telling. True story, when I gave this talk for the first time, it was like, it was really great, very entertaining, but you did a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. So I fixed that for you fine folks on the way over here. Okay, so start by letting people experience the problem. You have to create a moment, create a show. I think one of the premier like talk moments is Bill Gates coming up to TED, and he's got a jar in his hand. He's going like, did you know that more people get killed by mosquitoes than, I think he just tweeted it out again, more people get killed by mosquitoes than by sharks. because of malaria. There's no reason why it only needs to be poor people, and then he opens up and lets loose a lot of mosquitoes. So it's a little moment where people get to experience the problem, a little moment that he creates. I'm not saying give people malaria, obviously. But this is, I'm sorry, this is also a very good way to learn Dutch. This is from one of my current clients. So basically, you've got a little like CTA here, which you probably picked up on. We've got one here, we've got one here, and then the menu is in between. A lot of product analyst folks here. You immediately see some of the problem, which is that people don't click on that. And so we went like, oh, well, we need to, work on the CTAs. We need to work on their placement, that sort of thing, because the CTAs are pretty poorly placed right above and beneath the menu. And so I can say that, or I can ask people, and I did, to bring out their phones, go to a QR page, which was a product page, and then say, well, let's say you do want to know what the dates are for this particular training. Would you be able to click open that link? And they would all click. And then they would see this, which is a wall of text, which is, by the way, there's more text, but it's just, it did prove a point. So it like here, and then went here, and went here, and it's like, oh, that's a lot of text. And we're like, yes, where are the call to actions? Oh, yeah. So that's an easy way to make people experience. Just bring up the website, bring up the product, show them, have them experience the issue. Usually it's more than enough to make the sell. Excuse me. Next, get some of that data storytelling. Everyone's always going like, oh, you have to tell data stories, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. Let me show you, and this is the part where I needed to put the notes. Let me show you and ruin every single Pixar film that has ever been made and ever will be made. Every Pixar movie follows this particular framework. Once upon a time there was, every day, one day, because of that, until finally, I'm sorry, just a little dry throat. Okay, sorry. Belgium is really the Canada of Europe, by the way. So once upon a time there was. This is like we all went to school and went like, well, every story has a middle, a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is a far better framework because you can go. Once upon a time, we had a problem with our call to action buttons. Every day, people weren't clicking on them. One day, we went to look at Hotjar, and we noticed that people were clicking more on the menu items which were squeezed between the call to action buttons. Because of that, we looked at other pages where the call to action buttons should have appeared, but where they weren't appearing. Because of that, we set up a test, an A/B test, until finally our placement of the call to action buttons actually on the pages that people were seeing fixed our little problem. Again, a quick story to tell you through the 5 whys. See, I'm doing this on the spot, by the way. This is really great. Okay, so so basically, this is a nice little tie-in for you to use to tell stories about stuff. Okay, stick to conventions. Whenever you have slides, time flows from left to right. Culturally here, not really sure in other cultures, but here it's left to right. Good is up, bad is down. Hands up if you despise Google Analytics for showing bounce rate rises as positive. Excuse me. So green is good, red is bad. A little accessibility issue there that I also want to highlight. But again, these things I've seen, like, because people go like, up is good, up is green, down is red. It's an easy way to highlight. And an easy way to do language fuck up people's decisions, because people just look at the slide and go like, oh yeah, it's good. It's 3 green, that's great, that's great. Simplify your graphs. This is even, for me, by my standards, this is a very complicated one. But there's no reason to have 16 different lines if one just works. Another way to simplify those graphs, just use simple graphs. Like we use a lot of tools. Like we have to use like 3D and mind maps and that sort of stuff. It never works. People get confused. Use bar charts. Don't use pie charts. Bar charts. And so basically, this is, for example, how much I enjoyed Star Wars movies. Now, there's another thing you can do. You can also highlight issues. So, for example, so we've got the Rise of Skywalker there at the top. Back of the Empire. Empire Strikes Back at the bottom. And you can see like the problem is sort of in this area with Star Wars, not at the bottom. Ooh, the bombed. Ooh. Okay, anyway, so tell me if it was good or bad. I really like this visualization because of a couple of things. One, we can play with color. Red means we didn't get it. So if we have three main red metrics at the top, all three of them are red, we go, shit, we fucked up. It also allows us to go, like a target was 1,000. We can see here that we got 750, and we can have like a visual indication of how much we missed. This is another easy way to graph things out. So is this good or bad? Anyone? It's good. Yes, it is good. Let's compare it to last year. Is it good or bad? Good. Yeah. Ah, shit. So our line the competition outgrew us by quite a lot. They were larger to begin with, and they just kept on growing and growing and growing. Another thing that people tend to do poorly, especially if they use Google Docs, because that program, the visualization studio of Google is just really, really bad, is this line easily becomes the blue one here and the green one here. So make sure that you color code the lines correctly or the graphs correctly. Ah, yes. Excuse me. A quick aside about my cat. Because when I was growing up, we had a cat. I grew up in a house. And sometimes I would come downstairs and I just like go to the kitchen to get a drink. And I would hit something with my feet. And I would look down and there would be this mouse type thing, which was clearly dying on our carpet. And it just kept happening. And so we went to the doctor and the vet. And the vet told us like, oh, it's just your cat bringing you gifts because it's really happy that it gets to live with you. I swear I'm going somewhere with this. It's really happy because it gets to live with you. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I feel about my performance agency and these slides. Because I don't understand what any of these things mean. Like we've got gender here, but this is, by the way, an actual slide. I did not make this up. And I've spent quite a lot of time looking at this slide for talks, and I still don't know what the fuck is going on here. But anyway, so we've got male and female, and they're like about the same. And then there's like something to do here with ages and like income, and these are Belgian provinces, and so these days are all the same. And then there's interests here, and so like past purchases and like the device thing, and so basically, and if you look at the top, there's 10 Belgian provinces. 4 of them are listed as high targets, high important targets. There's no way that's possible. And then because we sold utilities, which means everyone needs gas and electricity. There's like arts, entertainment, autos, games, sports, and retail and shopping, which just makes no sense at all. Anyway, so that was our ideal target audience, apparently. Yeah, don't do that. So what do you need to do? Well, vision drives decision. Any South Park fans here? South Park fans? Yes. Good. So what I like about South Park is they go into these crazy tangents that always have like a message behind them. And if you'll permit me, I'll probably be the first one in Crap Talk history to talk about underwear, but I'll promise I'll keep it brief. Okay, so basically basically the little what do you call them again? Gnomes, munchkins? No. Sorry? The gnomes. Yeah, yeah. So gnomes. So they have this amazing plan, which is phase one is collecting the underpants, phase two is, and phase three is profit. And that's basically every single plan that I've ever been shown by way too many people. So the problem is sort of in this particular area, where it's like, oh, we want to do X, and then we want to get Y, but nobody ever talks about this phase because that's experimentation. Um, so yeah, so visualize phase two. Make sure that people see what's happening. All right, step three is learn from marketing. And no, seriously, the marketeers did crack this problem a long time ago, and they wrote a lot of books about it that are really interesting and amazing. I don't think you can work in this particular area if you haven't read this book, so this is an absolute must-read. I'm not going to go into all of them, but basically authority, consistency, consensus, scarcity, reciprocity, liking. These are all things why people take decisions, or what you can use to guide people to the correct decision. So, for example, when when I worked at an agency, we used a lot of interns, but we gave them a lot of responsibility. You know, sometimes they got to choose which coffee they wanted to serve. It's not true. It's not true. So no, we did make them sit with CEOs and that sort of thing. But you know, if you've got these 20-year-old kids sitting across from a well-experienced CEO, we go like, well, this is Nasira, and she's one of the brightest talents that we ever saw. We are really excited about what she's going to present. And with that, I just gave some of my authority to Nasira, which meant that the audience just didn't go like, oh, this is a silly little girl of 20 years, what's she going to talk? No, I just made sure of the fact that she did get a lot of more, a lot more authority than she would have otherwise had. Consistency is one that I pointed out in the beginning. Ask people what would change their minds. Now they're committed to that. They will go along a lot more. If things are scarce, like if there's really just a limited amount of time that we can use that, people will get swayed by that. And liking is very important, and I wish I could go back 15 years, so don't be assholes, okay? Just make sure people like you. Okay, so a lot of other things that marketers use that we can use as well are like biases, like loss aversion, which means do not frame as, well, if we use this particular thing, we will gain £1 million. You say, if we had used this particular thing this year, we would have made 26 additional million, because nobody wants to lose anything. A gain is hypothetical. A loss we feel. Bandwagon. Sorry, I want to talk about anchoring, because one of the greatest. I'm going to use bandwagon anchoring instead of bandwagon. One of the greatest sales performances is Steve Jobs presenting the iPad. Because Steve Jobs presented the iPad, and nobody knew what it was. Okay, at least with the iPhone, you knew it was a phone. You had that anchoring bit. With the iPad, it was new. And so Steve stood in front of a screen. He's like, this amazing technology, how are we going to price it? And then behind him appeared $1,000. And Steve said, like, $1,000 is way too much. No, you can have this iPad for just $500. And everyone cheered. Like, okay, I guess. Anyway, I used to talk about this. It's a cool picture, so I'm going to leave it up. I received a large ass whooping a couple of weeks ago from the chairman of the board of directors. I forgot, I think you talked about the 5 whys? Yeah, so the 5 whys. So when I give this talk, I'm like, you have to go 5 whys deep, because that's how deep you need to go to answer all the questions. And so I came into this meeting because I know the CEO and I know the CFO, so I'm pretty relaxed. And I mean, this guy I never met. and apparently it was a rite of passage, so they don't warn you. And so we basically got to question 2. Anyway, like, and I went like, Charlotte, you probably know this. Can you? And so, yeah, you have to. So, how do you build a moon base? Well, there's an interesting podcast that you can listen to with the NASA administrator. He basically controls $4 billion of budget, and he controls it. He's an astrophysicist, but he knows nothing about building a base on the moon. He knows nothing about getting to the moon. He knows nothing about keeping people alive on the moon. That's none of his things. So how does he decide which project gets X amount of the billion that he gets to spend? He just basically, and this is true, asks 5 questions. And from the moment you go like, yeah, I think we can do that, he goes like, no, you got to go back and you got to research that, because I'm not sending people to space without you knowing exactly what's going to happen. Okay, we're almost there. This one I stole again from Apple, because they started doing this like with COVID, I think. They have, at the end of all their product introductions, they have this slide about why you should care. They have this slide about what you should do, what the advantages or disadvantages are, why you should choose a product. It's this slide, and I think it's brilliant. Because if you keep a slide like this at the end of your presentation, at the end of the thing you're pitching, at the end of the thing you're presenting, you're basically having a discussion, and instead of people go like, can you go back to slide number, I think it was 18, no, wait, no, all the information is there, and you can just go like, oh yeah, so if we do that, if we take the, I don't know, encode and decode, whatever, then it'll probably work out in the end, right? Yeah, sure, absolutely. So another little trick that I started doing, and that really works, is at the end of a presentation, people go like, so are there any questions? Wrong! What you should ask is a question. Like, was there anything here that surprised you, Sam? Okay. What will you take away from this? What was really useful? What didn't surprise you? So just ask a question. Get a discussion. Get a discussion going. Let me ask you, what are you taking away from this presentation? And I've got this little slide right here, but apparently we're not doing questions now, so yeah, it's pretty useless. But anyway, thank you very much.